Hello. Well, now I know why I couldn't hear you or hear it because I wasn't making any noise. So we will just pretend I just started. And hi, everyone. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 8 of Fabrically Speaking Live. I'm your host, Clare Rowley, and if you're not familiar with who I am, I'm the inventor of the Creative Feet line of sewing machine products, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a 3-part mask so you don't have to wear 3 masks like you're being told to actually do now. How many of you were like, what? You want me to wear 3 masks? You guys should be able to hear me now. Hi, Marlene. That's a new name to the feed. Unless you've been lurking in the background each week. So guess what? I figured out how to not have to have a split screen this week. So when I switch cameras, you're going to actually see just the camera. I mean, just that particular camera. I hope that this improves your experience. And let's see, do I need to type anything? So if you have watched any of my other videos on mask making, this is my first pattern that I came up with. And I was saying that this is definitely my most comfortable mask to date until I reworked it recently and came up with this one. So if you are not familiar with the school that I have, it's a free school that you can join. And inside of the school, we have like our own little social media site. So it's private. You don't have to worry about any advertising or any other political things that may pop up. It's just a friendly place, right? Everybody that's already students in the school, you guys know it's fun to be in there now. It's getting better every day as I'm adding more to the school. And this is where you'll find the pattern. So if you... It says my mic is muted. But why does it say that? I'm not muted anymore, am I? No, that was just... This computer's trying to confuse me. Okay, so when you're looking at the top half of the screen, you'll see what it looks like to go to our creator group section of Create with Clare Rowley. And beneath the video, if you're on YouTube, when the live is over, you'll be able to click to join the school easily. One little click of the mouse. When you look at the video after we're done, there's a little arrow pointing down and it will take you to the description for the video where you'll find a whole bunch of links. In addition to the links for products, you'll also find the link to going into the school. And the bottom is what it will look like after you click on masks. So you see masks there. And above that is the VIP group. VIP group gets special VIP treatment in the school. But you all have a good experience in there because no matter what, no matter if you join the VIP or not, if you have any questions about sewing, quilting, or embroidery, you simply ask me inside of the school in whichever topic you're interested in learning about, and I answer you. Sometimes immediately because you can get notifications right to your phone. And what the school is built on is the mighty networks. And when I first developed the pattern, this original pattern, was immediately following the Sewing and Stitchery Expo last March. So this is a year old and it's been washed countless times and it's still in good condition. And it is and always has been a 3-part mask. So if any of you have my mask and you already have made one and you like it, it'd be great to share that in the chat with other people that might be nervous and not familiar with who I am. At one point during the mask making, we were actually taking care of all the hospitals in not Los Angeles, sorry, not all of them, but a good part of the hospitals in New York, in Connecticut, and New Jersey, with the help of my sister. And these are grateful nurses that were given donations by people because we were part of the Million Mask movement, trying to get everybody masks. my sister Kathy, also known as Kat, made, I don't know how many masks. I don't know if she ever counted them, but that was just a small sampling of the masks that she made. And she helped coordinate getting these masks to the hospitals with a group of women and men in her area. It was quite something. I'll write about it and put it inside of the masks topic at some point when I have time. At one point, we actually ran out of elastic, and so we came up with a pleated chin instead of using elastic in the chin, because I designed it so that it would be comfortable, and elastic makes the mask much more comfortable than pleats. Once we did the pleats, then this mask starts falling off your face like everyone else's. Inside of my mask is this unique nose shape, and I accomplished that by creating a piping using wire. And if you're scared at the thought of making piping at all and then making piping with wire, well, that's why I'm here. Don't be scared. It just seems scary. Let's see if you guys have any particular comments. As when I'm flipping through different things, I have to look at a completely different screen. You wear 2 masks, Brenda? Well, with this, you're actually wearing 3. So if you wear another mask in addition to my mask, you may be not providing yourself with enough oxygen. And I'm going to discuss the different elements that go into making my mask. Howdy, Anna, from East Texas. Well, welcome if you've never been a part of my weekly show. I air every Thursday at 2 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. So we don't change. Arizonans get to never have to spring forward or fall back. So when you guys change your clocks, the time of my show will change based on where you are. Oh yeah, this is my Under the Sea with Clare Rowley machine. I did a big course and I decided to paint a machine specifically for that course. And if we have a little bit of time, well, I probably will do a video going all the way around the machine and put it in our How to Paint Your Sewing Machine group inside of my school. So if you want to paint your sewing machine, that's where you'll go to do that. And we open a new thing, also a new section or a new paid group for the Creative Feet Techniques DVD. So you don't have to get a DVD anymore, or even a USB flash drive, which is what we were offering for those who didn't want to have a DVD, since a lot of you don't. Inside of the school, you can purchase the video, and it's broken down by chapters inside of there. And then you have the ability to ask questions of me in there. And then if you ever forget what I said, you can just go right back to your question. You can search your own history inside of the school to see what you wrote about, so that you know exactly what. I'm sorry, I got distracted by something. I'm going to shut it off so I stop being distracted by it. There we go. So back to this. The pattern comprises of 3 pieces for the mask itself. The forward-facing material really is not that important, so you can use any type of cotton material that you have. I like to ink my masks, and there is a YouTube video showing you how to ink masks, and they're also located inside of my school, so you don't have to even go to YouTube once you become a member. This is one that I inked, and see if I can give you a better view using this computer. So this was a plain white fabric, just like this. And the material that you see here is a 60% polyester, 40% cotton shirting material for men's dress shirts, or similar to a man's dress shirt. So if you know how lightweight and soft a man's dress shirt is, you know that this is going to be a really soft feeling mask. So this almost see-through, almost transparent. This is the fabric that is most important. And it is important that you actually have a polyester majority cotton blend against your face, because I I don't know if you remember when you were told that wearing a mask can make you sick, and it actually can, but it isn't like the virus that gets you sick. When they were mentioning that, they were speaking about the fact that inside of our body we have bacteria, and when you wear something over your mouth, you know, as you talk, you might spit a little or sweat, perspiration. All of these things are food for bacteria. So we release a little bacteria, and unlike the virus, it can actually just hop off of you, and it can grow, and it can make babies, and it can create this beautiful little bacteria home inside of your mask. And this is why it's important to wash your mask. I do have a video showing you how to wash your mask so that you don't end up doing all the work and then having it fall apart. The stabilizer or material that is the middle of the two materials is our polyester non-woven adhesive back embroidery stabilizer that is like a wall, goes in between the two. And even though it's like a wall, it's still, you can still breathe through it because you got to have air. There's new plastic masks which fog up inside and create too much condensation. And it's amazing that no one's gotten sick from them yet, but we'll see how it goes. Hi, Eve from California. And let's see if any of you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask questions. It's usually better to wait until after I finish the project to ask your question, or while I'm sewing and on a specific part of the mask. If you have a question, don't hesitate to ask in that moment. And then I do my best to see. You're just busy on Thursdays? Well, I'm glad that you're catching the replay afterward and that you get to play with us today. Okay. Is it warm in your area today? Last week it was freezing. And this week I am like, whew. But we're supposed to maybe get snow on Sunday, so it's just like a tease. Hi, Donna. And Nikki. Okay, enough hellos. I don't know why I brought this out. Do you guys remember? Oh, I was going to get something. I forgot. Guess it doesn't matter right now. Oh, you're in Seattle. You're near my son. This chair. I need something to make my chair move that doesn't sound like a train is roaring beneath me on the microphone. Our stick and tear stabilizer is located under our stabilizers link inside of creativefeet.com, and it has the green tree frog on the label. During the height of the COVID, everyone was calling this green frog stabilizer. So if you were looking for it, it's actually stick and tear, and it has a green frog on the label. The best size to get if you're going to make a lot of masks is either the 7.5 inch or the 14.5 inch. And then you'll have the least amount of waste if you're going to make a whole bunch of masks. And you can make a lot of money making and selling masks that are this comfortable. One of the things that made my pattern unique is that I have a design that kind of makes the mask form to your face better. And it's this little tube, and you feed your elastic through the tube. And why that is important is, one, if the elastic gets old, you can replace it with a new piece. I like to have a continuous piece of elastic so that I can wear the mask like a necklace, which I'll show you in a little bit. This is the bottom of the mask, or this is the bottom of the mask, and you can see it has elastic that stretches. And that stops it from falling down when you open your mouth. When your mouth opens and closes with masks that have seams going down the front, you probably see people all day long on the news or on shows pulling the mask back up under their nose because they open their chin. So that is why I developed it or designed it with elastic, and I have gone back to that. I also have this little, I still want to get rid of this little ending of the elastic, but it is really important or helpful to have the elastic able to slide on both sides of the mask, because you can adjust it over your ears easier. So what I did to make it a little bit even easier to do that is added this little ring to the elastic, and that kind of keeps the two pieces together. For those of you who were paying attention during the beginning of mask making, people were using paper clips and putting the two elastic pieces together behind their head with paper clips, and also with buttons, and all kinds of things were created to try to keep the mask against the back of your head, except for they would still fall off of your head and then it would slide down the back of your head. So this, you actually wear it on your neck, just like this. So when you're not using it, it's below your chin, and when you are wearing it, you just grab the top of the top loop of elastic, and you can bring it up and over your ears, just like that. And you can talk and talk and talk and talk and sing and open your mouth as wide as you want, and it stays on your face. And I've designed it so that it curves beneath your glasses, so you can wear glasses with limited amount of fogging, because I don't know if it's possible to not have any fogging on your glasses. So this is the difference in my voice when I'm wearing it versus when I'm not wearing it. Still muffled, but I'm able to breathe, and that's important, while still having the protection of 3 layers. You can always pair it up with one of these as well, because the science is that there's a virus that floats. It's very lightweight and it stays in the air a long time, and that's what makes it more contagious. If it enters your eyes, it's not just your nose and mouth. If it enters your eyes, it also can make you sick. That's what they've said. You know, what we all really know is, you know, anybody's guess. We'll find out what we know years later, probably. So wearing something like this, and I got this on Amazon. I will give you a link to these so that you can find them as well. They were very affordable, and I was able to have them for Thanksgiving, so my whole family was able to congregate, still see each other, and protect one another. So if you're really worried, I would pair this up so that you don't have to worry about it entering your eyes as well. So keep that in mind. A mask is not the only place the virus will land. It will land all over your body. It doesn't just go, oh, there's a mask, and fly toward your mask. So that's the other thing, and I'm going to stop educating you on it. I'm sure you're sick and tired of hearing about this virus, and we will get to the fun stuff now. This is my Caterpillar light tablet, and these are the feet that I'm going to be using today. I'm going to use all 3 of the Creative Feet, by the way. And each of the Creative Feet come packaged in reclosable containers like this if you purchase them separately. And they are universal snap-on feet, which means they're universal to all sewing machines. And we can just snap adapters right on to the foot, turning it into whatever foot you need it to be. And I can show you that again up close. Inside of the package is a little instruction booklet that teaches you some of the techniques that each of these feet do, with illustrations and showing you how to attach it. If you have a Bernina, you're going to use a Bernina low shrink adapter in addition to what's in our package, and you can see that we show you how to attach it using that. You can reclose and put everything back in for when you go to use it the next time. What I'm going to show you can accomplish without our feet if you want to. You can also buy our feet in specials where we package them all together. All right, there we go. Enough of that. The Caterpillar light tablet lights up. And the pattern, I was able to get at least the pattern dimensions so that you can print it out, even though I did it today. And I made it so you have a colored version and a non-colored version of the pattern. I like to use freezer paper to create my pattern so that I can iron it to the fabric and not have to worry about it slipping on the material. This is my little ironing pad. So you can just take and iron the pattern right onto your fabric, or you could lay it over just as you would traditionally do. One side is waxy and the other side is not. While that's heating up, I will see if you guys have written anything. You're in Central Florida, Karen. Oh, nice. I watched something today and everyone was covered in pollen. I guess you guys have pollen rain down on your cars, and people were having to wash their cars because there's so much pollen on them. Okay, that should be warm enough. I had this piece already cut, but I can't remember where I put it. And if you've been watching me each week, well, you know that I do tend to have that problem. I think I have the wrong side. There we go. But this may not be freezer paper. That's what's going on. I thought I used freezer paper, but I didn't. Okay. I will just do it if you don't have freezer paper, so you can see both ways. I also pre-wash my fabric always, especially on a mask. I got a whole bowl of this material and I kept it folded because it's white, and I put it in a pillowcase, and I have a pillowcase that I made just for pre-washing a whole bolt of material, and then you put the whole bolt inside the pillowcase. And you can also use a lingerie bag if you have one big enough, or you can make one big enough. And then wash on hot temperature with detergent. Now, one of you needed me to figure out how to use a rotary cutter without using your thumb. And know that I wish I had gotten around to it before, but I have not. And I'm going to be doing my best to figure that out for you. Another way of handling this, rather than just trying to cut around, is to take a writing, anything that you have that washes out. My pen is stuck beneath my oil, which in the VIP group this last Saturday, I go live in the VIP group every third Saturday. We had a little cleaning and oiling instruction session. So you can just draw right around your mask. And of course, you can make templates. Some of you are really good at this. I may need to alter that pattern, you guys, so I'm going to try to corroborate that in a minute, but I'm pretty sure that I made this arch too big. So you can see it's too high. It's too scooped is what it is. So if you're watching this in the replay, know that I have altered the pattern already, and you're good to go inside of the group if you go there and find the pattern. Didn't get to test it, you guys. I just did it. I had 3 minutes to spare running in here. Now I'm just going to cut this out. I'm doing that thing where I tell you everything I'm going to do, even though you can see it. What I'm going to do is let you look at the actual pattern while I am doing this, and know that you can freeze frame this or pause it when if you're watching on the replay, and make notes of all of the positions for each thing. If you notice across where it says piping, we are going to make piping from wire, and the wire that I use is wire that is designed to hold paintings on walls. I will get you a link for that. During the height of COVID, the wire was sold out and couldn't buy it. This is the, oops, I got that. Gotta hide that. This is the wire that I use. And what it is, it has a clear plastic coating around the outside of it, and it allows you to bend it. So when you're wearing or not wearing your mask, or before you put your mask on, I take and fold the mask in half, and then I stretch the mask out like this, and that gives you the arch of the nose. And if you always keep it arched up like a church steeple, then your mask will always be ready to put on over your nose, and you will be less likely to have to grab it when it's dirty. And every day after wearing it, I wash it because I can see my makeup gets on it. I'm letting you see a dirty mask. And this is why all of my masks are white inside. If you have your inside of your mask be at least a lighter color than the outside, you will see the dirt and be less likely to not wash it when you should. Another thing that you can do is, if you can't wash it because you're out and about and you wore it for a long period of time and you want to make sure there's no bacteria living inside the mask, you can put it in your dashboard and let the sun shine on it. A lot of people hang their masks on their rear view mirrors, and that's actually, not a bad idea, actually. None of you have said anything in a while. Are you guys still there? I need to know you're still there. This is when I wish I had some music all lined up, which I will eventually have. So I'm cutting my back. And I already have the stabilizer on the top fabric, but I am going to show you how we do it. Know that there are 2 videos already produced on making the masks and using the stick and tear stabilizer. And the first one I did is a long running video that teaches you quite a bit of other things in addition to the masks, but then I have a condensed version. And similar to that, I'm going to be starting, fabrically speaking, quick clips. Now this puts a lot of time on me. I have to go through the video that we do each Thursday, and then I'm going to be giving you a short condensed version where you can just quickly go do the project and then not have to wade through the hours that I spend with you live. Because some people just do not have the time for these for a 3-hour live, which I don't think it's going to take that long today. That's what I was getting my ruler out. One of the things that I really like is this piping ruler, and I will add it to our site. We're so close to opening our new creativefeet.com site. And then my son, who is our web developer, said, then you can just go for it and add all the products that you want. So that is my goal, is to start adding all my favorite things into our site. So you're quiet because you're watching? You guys are paying. Sometimes you guys chat more than others, I've noticed. All right. So now I already put the stick and tear on the back of this material, which is my fabric. And the reason I did it is because I inked it. And if you try to ink this fabric, it's because it's super lightweight, it just will not ink. It will, it'll just, the ink will just go right through it, as you can see on the back side of this particular mask here. So that drained through. And if you look really close, you can hear it has a fiber sound to it. It actually, I used to have an N95 mask in here, but I don't know where I put it. When I make your wooden pressers, I have all these different colors of wood, and I grind them. I turn them on a lathe and then I sand them. There's so much sand fiber or molecules or whatever it's called, fibers, dust fibers, sand. What is it called, you guys? Can you help me? What is that called? Sand, dust. Something dust. That's so funny. I can't think. And when I would not use these masks, when I used the N95 mask before the virus ever hit, I had the N95 mask really tight to my face because I have asthma and I don't want to have the sawdust, sawdust go up into my sinus tract. And no matter how tight I made that mask, I would end up with multicolored sawdust when I cleaned up afterward. And once I made this mask, I no longer had that. So it is, for me, it works better than the N95 masks for sanding. So, and I have had some other people say similar things. Like one student said her husband, normally he can't, after mowing the lawn, he suffers for like 3 days and he doesn't have any problem anymore after mowing the lawn. If any of the rest of you have experienced that, it'd be great to share that in the chat. Because for me as an asthmatic, it's been life-saving. I use it when I mow my lawn as well, but I don't always mow my lawn anymore. I had guys for that all last year. It was great. I do enjoy mowing my lawn though. I like yard work. Do any of you like gardening? Hi, Marilyn. I remember you from Martha Pullen. I remember your face. I remember all your faces when I see them. I love it when you are in and I can see it. And I missed the Martha Pullen show. That was a good show. Martha seems to be doing really well. For those of you who didn't know that she had a bout with breast cancer. All right, enough of that. This is the fabric that I inked to use as the side pieces for this mask. And then there was a day when I decided to teach how to sew a button on by machine, and I sewed a button onto my back fabric or my side fabric. So I thought I'd leave it here to remind you that I do have a video showing you how to sew a button on by machine, and the Satinedge Foot is what I use to sew buttons on. I miss seeing you all too at shows. I wish I could just blink and show up at a show and that I didn't have to set up the booth and fly there and stay in hotels. When things start to clear up, I will be doing events here at a local casino. So if you bring a partner with you that wants to play golf and explore while you sew all day, just know that that's coming up when we all feel safe to do that again. How many of you would feel like you could just go to a show right now? If they even let us. Let's see. What will be my next mask? See what's coming up. We got St. Patrick's Day coming up. That would be a fun one to make. Do I have fabric for that? No one would pinch you if you were wearing a green mask for St. Patrick's Day. And I'm doing this just so I can show you how we actually get ready to make the mask by using the stick and tear stabilizer. Before you cut the actual fabric out, you'd have a piece of the stick and tear, and I have it somewhere. That's what I was getting. Where is that? I already have so many open rolls of stick and tear. Let's see, what else can I give you guys to look at while I look for this? This is something one of my students came up with during the COVID time to make masks faster. And that original mask had several louvers or several pleats in it. It had 4 pleats. This one has 3 pleats. This one is smaller and cooler to wear. I found it. Oh, I already showed you that. I thought that was my dad. I made him a mask. I didn't get a chance to show you guys everything that I wanted today. Put this away. The other day I put this away and I slid my finger across it and it shut down all the cameras, closed the feed, and I freaked out. So now I'm terrified of this keyboard being just anywhere. I'm glad that happened when you guys weren't on. Would have been a shocker for you. But you know what happened? If that ever happens, I came right back into the feed. So they've gotten better at this stuff. So I'm going to take a bit of our stick and tear stabilizer, and you can see that the pattern itself fits across this one. And this is the 7.5 inch wide stick and tear roll. And when you cut out your stick and tear, you make it bigger than your fabric. It's easier to cut anytime you're going to do something like batting or, whoops, anytime you're going to use batting or any other type of material, you can just, you know what, this is good because that stick and tear's got a lot of ink on it, so I'm just gonna, if I can get it off, let's see if you can show you this on a better camera angle. So guess what I figured out? I figured out I had a zoom lens for my camera, and so now I don't have equipment all around me. Those of you who watched me deal with that. This is how good it's holding on to that fabric. Sorry about that. I may just give up. So I don't want to make you wait. So we'll just make believe right now. So make believe that this fabric has not got the stick and tear already on it. And you would just take and put it over it, and then it bonds to it. And then you cut around the stick and tear. And then on the back side, you have a filter. And I need to say at this point that I make no claims that wearing a mask will keep you from getting the virus. I make no claim that you, by wearing this mask design, that you will not get sick. And just have to do that for my kids' sake. So like, make sure you say the disclaimer. It's nice to have kids looking out for you. So now after you had cut that, and when I peeled that release liner off, sometimes I have to fold the corner to make it come off easier. And now we're ready to think about the side panels, which I'm going to remove. This is what I do now now that I have more than one pad for my cutter pillar. I'm spoiled. I'll never want to go back to not having this. We can take, when we don't need lines, and I actually did want lines because I was going to show you how to cut the side pieces the right size. But I also have it already drawn in the pattern. So you can take and put your fabric over the top of it, and so you can see I can't see it right now. Oh, I got you on the wrong camera. Ah. Hi, Amy. Better Days is here, everyone. You guys are gonna like really know each other by the end of a year of meeting every Thursday. You guys are gonna really get to know one another, aren't you? So it says you're buffering. I'm sorry. And I can't see who you are because I can't see inside of Facebook when I'm doing this. But if you allow StreamYard to see you, then you will be visible like other people are inside of Facebook. Or you can watch us on YouTube as well, because I'm on both places. So I actually wrote on the pattern, it's 1.5 inches by 4.5 inches, and that is the nose piece where we're going to put our wire inside. Oopsie. So the nose piece is up here. It's bigger, and then the piece of wire that goes inside of it is 5 inches long, and then the overall piece is 5.5 inches long. We're going to fold under these pieces and make a piping with this as the inside. And this is when you know you're brave, if you can do this. So we're going to have 2 side tubes as well. The 2 side tubes are going to be folded in half, and I feel like I made these a little bit narrow. But drawing on the screen is different than actually making it. So I have to make sure I don't cut too much off. And a cheater way of doing this, because after we pleat this, the overall length of this is 6 inches, and we take 1.5 inches away, then this piece right here should be 4.5 inches to go and fit on the side of the mask. What did I put? Oh, there it is. This mask, I decided to use the same fabric, so you can't really tell that it's there. So it's really up to you if you use a material that matches or if you use a complementary color of material. And so this is how wide it actually ends up being. That's what I need to go by instead of math. This is more accurate math for me. So it needs to end up being 2 inches after the edges are folded under. And this is basically 1/4 inch on both sides. So it needs to end up 2 inches. And even though this tablet mat, it does not have lines on it, it has what I call implied lines. They're etched in the back of the mat. So I don't know if you can see them. It looks like a cross hatching over this pattern here. So that helps you to cut straight lines. And I tend to cut diagonally because of the way I'm sitting at my machine. But I want to make it 2.5 inches. So we've got measuring lines on the actual pad as well to help, which is nice. Which I don't even have to tell you that's nice. So if we want it to end up being 2 inches and we're going to cut it, go under 1/4 inch on both sides, then we want it to be 2.5 inches wide. There's more than one way to cut. You can cut leaving the material out here, the size that you want it to end up being, and you can also cut another way, which is what I showed last week. Oh, I can't remember what I did. So I can go this way, and if there's a left-handed viewer today that has to cut on this side, so if you're left-handed, you would have your ruler be over here. But you can also measure and then lift up and then move your ruler. I'll have to, you guys need to catch the tumbling block lesson from last week. I'm just going to mark this because I didn't eat. I needed to eat, and I grabbed something, but it wasn't enough. You guys suffer when I do that. I apologize for not having more time to eat. No sound. I think it was just I got soft because I wasn't near the mic. I know I can hear myself coming out of my phone, so if you don't have sound, check your settings. It's so much nicer now that I know how to flip between cameras without having to have a split screen. But if you ever want a split screen, just go, hey, can you split screen that? And then I will. So this is going to be enough for 2 of the side panels. And I'm going to fold under and press, and I'm going to do a top stitch along the sides of this ahead of time. So if you're going to make a whole bunch of masks and you're going to use the same color material for all of the side loops or tubes for your masks, then you would do a really long piece like this, and we're going to fold under and then do a top stitch along that folded edge. Turn it off, it's easier for you to see. So we fold under the edge, and we're going to do that on this side as well. And if you use spray starch and iron that after you've pressed it with the presser, then it will hold really nicely and not pucker. So you can see I use this different ways. Sometimes I do that. Don't overthink it. This is just awesome to not have to use your iron for the fiddly part. After you do the fiddling around, making sure everything is lined up right, then you can go to your iron and you don't have to get your fingers really close to the iron. I like to use Faultless for things like this, and I would not use that for the fabric that's going to face your mouth. It'd be best to have absolutely nothing on this material, which is why I washed and dried and do not use even fabric softener. And it's time to iron again. So what do you think? Am I getting better at this, you guys? I can't wait till it's so easy I don't have to think about it. Once you have that folded under and folded under, then you can flip it over. You could also use our liquid-based glue and have that glued down, which is definitely better than what I'm doing. So rather than having to, well, as you saw, I couldn't get it to lay flat. I left this lid off for hours the other day. There we go. So just some dots on that fold and then fold it over. And the nice thing about having a pad, which I'm sure some of you are aware of on your iron, is that you could pin it just so that it holds it down while it's drying. So you don't have to use your fingers to do that. Anytime we can not use our fingers, we're less likely to have puckers, and I just didn't put enough of this on there. Let's see. The sliding of your finger afterward is another thing that I do. I'm not pushing down hard on this, very light touch. And you guys, I tried to use my small iron and it kept spitting. So I have to get a new little iron. I know a lot of the hosts like this double-ended iron, and I'm going to try it out and see what other options are out there, and then I'll do a comparison video for you guys. See which one I end up liking the best. Doing a solid line is also another option. And then you just slide your finger across. Never have to pin. So nice. Sorry, I always feel like singing a little bit. I don't think this is going to end up being 2 inches. I think I messed up. It's Mess Up Thursday with Claire. The thread I've chosen to use is the Invisifil 100 weight polyester thread that we offer at creativefeet.com. It's a very thin but strong polyester thread. And the reason I'm doing that, well, it's going to leave less of a hole than a larger thread, for one, since we're dealing with something that we're supposed to be worried about it getting into small spaces. Leaving a smaller hole, a smaller needle. Sorry if I'm getting in the way of this. Where is that thread going? Oh, I can't stand wasting thread, especially on camera. Oh, you guys can't see that I did. It's so nice to be able to be in front of my machine, and it is important to do that. You should center yourself with your sewing machine needle. This is the Baby Lock Crescendo machine, and I would show you a surface tour of it, but the camera is now far away from me, so I can't zoom in and zoom out on this camera. Get that out of the way. This has a little single button. I push the button and then it lowers the foot, opens the tension discs, pushes the thread through, and then lifts the foot back up again. It's the safest needle threader ever made. You're less likely to bend it than with the one that I was using the last few weeks. Okay, so, if you're on Facebook and you can't hear me, there is a speaker on the actual video. So if you slide your mouse around on the actual screen of my video. So the camera is definitely lagging right now. We're a little bit slow. I'm gonna wait till I see that I'm not lagging here. So it's down low on the screen. So down around here. These people that design these platforms, they like to hide things from us. You can't even see that there is a microphone. It's white, and you slide your mouse over it, and then it'll show up, and it probably has an X through it right now. And it's your setting. So if you are inside of Facebook and you tell it you don't want it to play sound until you turn it on, because maybe you watch videos while you're at work and you're not supposed to, and you don't want the sound on. So when you turn the sound off on a video, it leaves it off until the next time you come in. Next time you watch a video, it's off and you don't remember doing it. And these are the things we learn. So try that and see. Yes, this has always been a dream of mine to do a live. Let me bring that up so everyone knows who I'm talking to. It's always been my dream to be able to be live like I'm at a show with you guys in not live. So this is the answer. And technology is finally making it possible for us to do that. Yes, it's 60. It's called Poly Cotton, and you can find it at fabrics.com. Type in Poly Cotton fabric. A lot of quilters don't even know this exists. And what it does is cotton is a food for bacteria. It has sugar in it, cellulose. All your natural fibers do. But if you just use 100% polyester against your skin, well, now it's rough and it can scratch you and cause abrasions. And an abrasion is a welcoming place for a virus to enter your body as well. But we're trying not to talk too much about the virus today. It's more about just, we're going to be wearing something really cute on our face. And everywhere I go, people go, I love your mask. I love your mask. Where'd you get it? Where'd you get it? And I'm like, I made it. And I run away as fast as I can before they go, how much would you how much would you charge for me? How many of you had someone go, you sew? I got some blue jeans that need mending. So Ellen, did that fix the volume? Did you find that? Because you can actually change the volume on the actual video as well. I'm pretty sure it's also a feature inside of YouTube, because my mic is set all the way up. So I am using the highest volume I can, and I'm right on the microphone right now. So hopefully that will help you. It happens to me too. I was watching something. I'm like, why isn't this sound on? And I know how that all works, and I still did that. So I forget. All right. Off the chat and to the sewing. The Satinedge Foot allows me to position the guide on the foot off the edge of the fabric, allowing me to position my needle wherever I want it to be on top of the fabric. Sometimes it's easier to see by flipping the fabric with the wrong side facing up. This guide allows me to use this side of the foot or that side of the guide. So it is and a lot of people don't know this, the Satinedge Foot is exactly the same on both sides of the guide. And the guide is what you see here. This little white guide right here has a wire that extends out from the guide. And that wire is the actual guide. So whenever the wire is up against, it won't let you go too far. It like hits a wall. This will help you see even better. So when I push against the foot, it won't let me go past that guide. Isn't that nice? And I designed this for a woman who was born blind. So that's why it works like that. So you could sew right side up if you want, and as long as you know how far over you can sew before you're missing that edge right there. Or you can sew with the comfort of knowing, because you can see and have it be on top. I'm going to reduce my pressure a little bit, because when we're working with lightweight materials, high pressure can sometimes increase drag on the fabric and cause a little pucker. I'm also going to reduce my thread tension. This is 100 weight thread, but even though it is, I'm going to reduce my thread tension down to a 3.6 from a 4.0. Bring the needle down, and I'm like, okay, that's a good spot. The distance between the guide and the needle is how far away your needle's going to sew from that edge. We want to make sure we get that edge caught beneath. One of the reasons I lowered my needle tension is because I want my bobbin tension to look like the top when we're finished. So this is a trick to sewing upside down and making it look like we sewed right side up. I have no idea what needle I have in here. If it were more than just a mask, I would probably have paid more attention to that. You can see it's a beautiful stitch on this side because I lowered the needle tension, which allowed the bobbin tension to look like the top thread. Another trick for you guys. How many tricks have you guys learned in the last 8 sessions of Fabrically Speaking Live? So the needle that I should be using would normally be recommended for 2 layers of cotton is a 80-12 universal. So the universal needle has a rounded tip, also known as a light ballpoint tip. And the number would be 80-12 for just doing 2 layers. Just to save myself from changing needles a lot, if I were making a whole bunch of these, because I know Sandy, you're thinking about doing professional sewing, I would make a whole bunch of the side panels and do the 80-12 needle, because it has there's no need to use a big needle with it. But in this particular thing, the next thing I'm going to be doing is sewing elastic and then the sides, and that it gets pretty heavy, so I will jump up to a 90-14 needle. And that's probably what's on here. I'm trying to think of what I taught last week. Do you guys remember what I taught last week? Of course, that doesn't count because we went live on whatever you want Claire to sew Saturday in the VIP group. So I have absolutely no idea what needle this is. That's the longest I've been quiet on my show. Tricky. I am tricky. Full of tricks. I call it cheating, but you guys, you shouldn't be cheating on Saturday. There's more than one type of cheating. So now this is going to be the side loop that you see here. And it looks pretty good. And it takes up less space on your face. Since we're coming up on the warm season, having a cooler mask is really nice. Now I can just go ahead and stitch this down because it looks like the right size, but you're going to follow the pattern so you'll have everything right. And you shouldn't cut fabric with scissors this small. These are the smallest of the Appliquick scissors. Sandy gave me this. Isn't that cool? So this is where I put my scissors. These are the better ones for this type of work, cutting across fabric. And you have a spot for every finger, which takes the strain across the top of your hand and it just erases it. You don't use those muscles and tendons. If you're just coming into my show and you don't know who I am, I invent products for people with physical and visual challenges. So things look a little different around here. I also have a painted sewing machine. I have my machine actually stuck to my table, so I can't move it. Why did I do that? Because this machine got damaged in shipment to shows. If I have a little bit of time and I'm too tired afterward, I'll take my cell phone and go around the machine so you guys can see all sides of it. So you can see I don't have these cut the same. No one's really going to notice unless someone gets right up on your face when you're wearing the mask and goes, let me see how you made that. So now we're dealing with the fabric being lifted, and you don't have to do that. If your hands are not what they used to be, there's no reason not to use our liquid-based and just get everything held in position. In fact, when I did make a lot of masks at one point, I made a whole bunch of the sides. I glued them all. I had them all stacked up so that, and in fact, most of them had a white side. So I just kept making them, and I didn't have to stop and make them each time I made a mask. It's not cheating. It's making your life better, making you more efficient, making things go quicker, eliminating the stress and frustration that you can experience. The other one went easier because there was fabric off to the side. So this one I'm just way too close to the edge, so I'm going to move it over. And I can also move my needle over as well. And still haven't changed my needle. All right, so we have our two little side pieces, and now we're going to make the piping piece. And you can make the piping piece white if you like, but I really like to have it separate because then I know which side is my nose and which side is my chin. So sorry that now that it's not clean. All right. It's been a while since I made a mask. I think the last one I made was summer when it got hot. No, I recently just made that. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to form it. And your instincts, if you're a normal sewer, is to put them together. But we don't do that. We first pleat the fabrics off of one another. And on the old mask, we used to just fold it in half and start in the middle. But on this one, your pleats are going to be down on the lower part of the mask. So we're starting from the chin and going up a ½ inch, if I remember correctly. And then you fold. So use your rulers and measure this out. It's an active day here. I'm just struggling because I have an iron on my table and I'm not used to that. Where's the pattern? You'll follow the pattern. This is live. The pattern is slow moving and all the details will be correct in there. So we're going to measure up. Where'd my little ruler go that I love so much? So we come up from the bottom. And I'm doing this so that I can look afterward. So we're going to come up, and that is where we want our point to fold over to. And then we're going to go from a ½ inch out and fold it over. Isn't it going to be a pretty one? This is going to be my evening out mask. The machine is so noisy. I'm going to switch to the above. Because this is definitely something I do. I press before I move on. I got so good at determining how big it was, the louvers, that I stopped measuring. I don't know. Give me a thumbs up if you made so many masks you no longer needed to measure. And then I would go, okay, is this going to be the right size? And I'd bring my side piece up and I go, no, that's, is it? I don't know. Let's see. Because I need a ½ inch seam allowance on both sides of this little tab. And I could tell that I didn't fold this one big enough because I could feel it from making so many. So that's what you're looking for after you've made the side pieces perfectly. Then you should have a ½ inch on either side of that. And we're going to sew that in between this and that, but you got to fold this as well If I make a whole bunch of these at once, I make a whole bunch of the insides and I had them just stacked up ready for the next mask. If you're making them to sell, like on Etsy or something, you may want to say the inside is white so that you know when to wash it. So they don't feel like you were, what do you call it? Just being cheap or something, not giving them pretty fabric on it. I couldn't even begin to make a mask without my clip-it clips. And these are a little bit different than other clips. They're easier on your hands than these. These are really quite difficult to squeeze. They dig right into your skin on one squeeze. Where these, because they're significantly larger, for one, the spring itself on the clip is, because it's bigger, and this is how the science of it works, it doesn't take as much muscle. There's less strain on that surface of that metal, so that it's easier to move them, and you can hold it in different ways. Whereas this one, because of its size, kind of forces your thumb into that hyper extended position, which makes you want to rub your thumbs all day long. Another clip kind of thing that I like to use are these little clothespins that you can get in the photography area of your craft stores, where they have the wooden ones and they have these cute little plastic ones. Sometimes I use these, and they're the easiest to open and close of anything that I've got, but not strong enough for the mask with the stabilizer beneath it. Anybody have any questions at this stage? Be great to ask right now as I'm fiddling about making it sure it's the right size. Use the clips as well. The clip-it clips, or the, that's what I'm like, where'd that go? And this is your time. This is the most important part, I think, for your peace of mind when making it, is to make sure that you measure that you have a 1/4 inch on both sides of that. And when I'm closing that down, I'm making sure that I grab the louvers, because I am going to glue it again, because why not? It's so much easier on your hand. This is one of the projects we did on Fabrically Speaking Live a few weeks back, using my Octi-Hoops as the pattern. If you have my Octi-Hoops, that's what we use to make these little organizers for your table. And it's great for the clip-it. Whoops. That one went flying. It's great for putting the clip-it clips on when you're not using them. All right, so 2 clips while I'm getting it ready, and then I would definitely use the iron. So I glue, and then I will set it aside while I prepare this fabric, which I will glue as I go along. Brenda has to go. Sorry, Brenda. See you next time. I'm aiming for no more than 2 hours today. What do you think? Think I can do it? It's 3:12 right now. When you glue, you're very lightly putting it on the fabric, and these clips, the clip-it clips, allow you to go past your glue. I'm really shaky today. I think maybe I put an extra scoop of coffee beans in my coffee grinder. I think tomorrow I will take a coffee break. So now this will dry while I am working on the other. Has anybody got music playing in their head right now? Because I'm not singing the chicken dance. I was making this little song, a little ditty in my head, and everyone told me it was the chicken dance. I got a little embarrassed. For some reason, that is stuck in my head. She didn't miss much. Cynthia. All right, ready? Are you looking at the screen, Cynthia? You're last week's winner. I reached out to you a couple places, but you didn't get back to me. I see you are a member of the school, and if you didn't get the notification that you won last week's giveaway, then you may not have your notifications turned on inside of the school. You want to make sure you turn on your notifications. When you're inside the school, you go up to your, if you see this screen that I put up in the middle of this on the, I wonder if I can use my hand so you can see. This is hard for the brain. Nope, can't figure out where to put my finger. But you see the round circle? Let me see if I can put a finger. Nope, I just can't get my brain to work that way. There it is. So right around there, see the round circle? That's my picture. I don't know how small it is on the screen that you're on. But to the left of that is that bell. That's your notifications. And you may have notifications in there from posts that I made, or other members may have sent you messages and stuff. If they sent you a message, then it is the second image over from there. Sure. There we go. So that is where you want to set your notifications so that you can remember. You want to be able to be notified when we go live and when I add new things to the school. But you're the winner, so you just need to email me at info@creativefeet.com like you see here. So you could pause this, and you could also email me inside of the school if you figure out how to do that. So congratulations to Cynthia. Everybody give her a woot woot. It pays to watch the live feed. Okay, so that's set aside and drying, and now I want to make sure that I have right side facing my skin, and that's the wrong side. It isn't a bad practice to actually write a letter on the right side before you cut something out. A letter that you can't mistake for being backwards. So don't do a W and don't do a U. If you do an R for right side of the fabric, then when it's upside down, if that R if it was a see-through material, the R is actually now backwards, and you know that that's not the right side of your fabric. And this is how you don't lose your mind when making 100 or 300 masks all at once. Follow the pattern that is inside of the school for the accurate measurements. Do not use starch on this fabric because it's going against your skin. Anything with chemicals we don't want to breathe in. I use dish detergent to wash my masks. Antibacterial dish detergent, so it kills any bacteria that comes off of my face. These two pieces are supposed to be the same size as the overall material, so I can see that and it's not that important that this be perfect as far as whether or not you have it the louvers exactly the same size, because it's the inside of the mask. But you do want to make sure that it's the same amount folded on this side as on that side. Otherwise, you'll get like a twisty look like that. I hope I made sense when I said that. Sure, appreciate it if you guys hit the like button and share the videos, and if you've yet to subscribe to my channel, I hope that you will take the opportunity to do so today so you won't miss out on any of our videos. And the Fabrically Speaking quick clips should start soon. I forgot to glue it. I'm gonna look at the chat in a minute, so if you guys have any questions, while I'm getting this glued, so you can see that's holding already. So it's much easier to glue a thin layer of material than it is to do it with the stick and tear. So I don't really need the clips to hold the fabric when I made the sides or the insides. And your chance to make sure that you didn't make it too small, because it'll be a challenge for you. So what we're looking for is that it's the same size as, got the iron in the way, the same size as the bigger piece. While it's damp, you have the opportunity to shift the fabric to make it fit. And then you can set it aside and do the next side. And this is when I would clip it, just so it doesn't come apart because I bump it or something. But I'm going past the glue line with this clip and just holding those louvers together. Okay. Whew. I am so hungry again. It's going to get easier, I know. One day I will just pop on screen right away, perfect timing, and I won't be saying, "Can you hear me?" It isn't like the batik fabric, but all material, if you are going across the grain, so you first have to find cross grain. We got, it stretches a little bit that way, and then you go, okay, does it stretch that way? It doesn't stretch that way. So this is the way the selvage on the fabric would have run. So you go across grain and make sure your thumbs are lined up with one another, and you pull, and see how it kind of concaves? So this is the wrong side. It hugs its belly. It hugs the wrong side of the fabric. So that's how I could tell which side was right and which side was wrong of this shirting fabric, because it is also just really hard to tell right from wrong, but it will feel different on your face. A lot of people don't realize that it does affect how it feels. It feels a little softer on the right side generally. Some fabrics not so much, but we're almost to the sewing part, and the sewing part goes pretty quick. It's the slowest part of making a mask is getting your fabrics all ready, which is why getting a whole bunch of fabrics ready ahead of time makes the sewing much quicker, just like any assembly line. You're gonna deliver me lunch every Thursday? Aw. It's not easy in my area to get food delivery. I actually did grab some sandwich meat really quick before I went live, so I'm okay. I'm gonna eat right after this. Now you can push steam through this without any problem at all, as long as the iron's on. I did it again. So how many of you still have snow? If you still have snow, do a thumbs up for me. I have figured out how to use this multi-camera full screen, which is making me very happy, but all of a sudden it keeps saying my mic is muted, and it makes me nervous. But you guys haven't had me all of a sudden mute, have you? There we go. Now I've got to sew my piping, because it's the last thing you do, and you don't want to go, oh, I don't feel like making the piping, because you waited too long to make it. And And remember I said it was a 5-inch piece of wire. And this is not something you want to cut with your scissors. These are, I see you guys are getting a nice conversation going. I love seeing you guys interact with each other. This is a pair of pliers and it has a wire cutter on one side. And on this side you can't see it. So I'm going to use the wire cutter to cut it, but I'm going to cut it a little bit bigger. So like 5¼ inches. And it takes quite a bit of muscle. It isn't like the kind you can just bend and break. That's part of the beauty of it, or the importance of using picture hanger wire is what this is. So it takes quite a bit of finagling. I would sit there and just cut a whole bunch of wires if I were making a bunch of masks and get them all ready ahead of time. Okay. Then I take the pliers and roll it under. And that's why I made it a little bit longer. And then squeeze to make it round. Do the same thing on the other side. And this side, not going to use those scissors. I could just hear Rosa yelling at me from Spain. Don't use my scissors on that. I have some junky scissors somewhere. These aren't junky scissors, but they are awesome. I'm not cutting the wire. I just cut the clear tubing because when I wiggled the wire, I pulled the wire back into the tubing, and so there wasn't any to bend. And we want to bend that under, so we want to make sure it doesn't poke through later. They're yellow on the ends because I use them to open my inks, so I don't get my fingers all dirty, and because my fingers just have a really hard time opening bottles of ink. The next thing I do is use some type of tape and wrap it around the ends, usually washi tape because it's handy. And if you're not familiar with washi tape, it's pretty much painter's tape in small rolls, and like I have a whole bunch. Can't find any of it. There it is. It's the stuff I use for the binding technique to get you to do perfect mitered corners. If you don't know, I have a binding video on how to make perfect mitered corners every time. Well, be sure to check it out on my YouTube channel or in the school. It's one of the featured videos in the school because everybody needs to bind. Fainting would be bad. I'm okay. I don't have low blood sugar. I'm shaky because I had too much coffee. I've been shaky all day. I really think I accidentally put an extra scoop of coffee beans inside of my coffee. So then I just wrap that around like that. This isn't a gauge of wire, and I will put a link in the description below on what it is, but it is enough to hold a 300-pound painting on a wall. Those of you who didn't know, I used to own a gallery. I tried to have creative feet in a gallery with my artwork and teach classes, but I was on the road too much. So I closed that. But this is one of the wires that I would use to hang really, really heavy paintings on the wall and not have to worry about them falling. This would be the type of wire you would use to hang a mirror on a wall, a really big mirror. And you can get it at like your Hobby Lobby, Joann's Fabrics, anywhere where you can find supplies to hang paintings. And see how it maintains its shape? You can shape it any way you want. And that's the importance of it, because that's what makes me be able to form the nose of the mask into like a steeple to go over your nose, and reduces the amount of touching that you're going to do on your mask. Once you have that form shaped, just don't mess with it, and you will be able to quickly put your mask on, as I showed earlier, and I will show again. So now what I need to do is I need to make that into piping. So I got to sew it in. And I want to make sure that it's all nice and soft and invisible inside of the mask. This fabric is a little bit short. That means my seam allowance has to be 1/8 of an inch on the sides. Can I achieve that? Did I make it too long? Feels like it's a little long. See, designing a pattern on your computer screen is different. So it's like a 1/2 inch too long is what it is. And since my nose did not grow, I'm going to cut a little bit more off of this. That's no fun to have to cut again. So who's having dinner? Do your houses smell wonderful right now? Because you got dinner cooking? The binding video is great. Thank you, Sandy. I get excited now when something needs binding. I'm like, ooh, I get to do the binding. And if you don't feel that way about binding, well, you need to watch my binding video. It makes it simple. Now it's the right size. Promise I'll have the new measurement sizes in the video or in the pattern. And for those of you who are watching now, and if you're not going to download the pattern off of the Create with Clare Rowley school, and it's free, so there would be no reason not to. Folding under both ends at 1/8 of an inch, or more like a 1/4 inch. Cut the wire 5 inches to start, folding it under. Makes it 4.5 inches of wire when the ends are folded under. So now we have plenty of room on this fabric, which I was pretty sure I had right to begin with. Remember, this is not something that people are going to judge your sewing on, so it's a good starter project. And what I basically want to do is I want to have it look pretty. I want to have the both ends sewn to where you can't see any raw edges because the fabric frays. Oh, it frays a lot, by the way, this shirting material. And so I'm going to wrap this fabric around that ultimately. But first I want to sew the 2 side seams. But before I do that, I want to fold under the other 2 ends. So what you're trying to do is make sure that you have enough fabric folded under. And I need a little bit more here. So this is the size, and it looks like I did that correctly. So the fabric part was right on the pattern. So if you're making one tonight and you're not going to wait for me to fine tune it, because I'm going to go out and eat right after this. It hasn't been that long since I did this. Come on, Claire. So we want the least amount of bulk. So we're going to take and put these together first and sew down. And if I do that, then I turn it right side out. Then I have to have these folded under. So is that right? I don't think it's right. I think I need to do this first. Who's designing this pattern anyway? It really hasn't been that long since I made one. Yeah, you got to do this first. My pressure was too light. Didn't even hold the fabric. And you can glue it and press it. Trying to save time now. And it's going to be inside the mask. People would be really rude if they took your mask off your face. That's one thing you don't have to worry about. Somebody wanting to take your mask off your face to see how you made it. So I'm doing this because we're going to sew the sides afterward. It seems like all of my sewing machines are noisy, the surfaces, no matter what I do. That's why I kind of glued this machine to the table. I didn't glue it to the table. You know what I used? Can any of you guess what I used to hold my machine in place? Because the part that holds this part here to the machine broke in the last shipment. So this part of the machine can slide off. So I have it secured to this inside using what? What do you guys think? The same stuff I use for putting my needles on my machine. If you guys have seen me do that. And it is listed as needle tack inside of the description below the video. So if your machine slides around on your table, you can secure your machine to your table using it, and it doesn't ruin the surface of your table. It's not permanent. So now I'm going to fold this back and sew this across. And I didn't need to secure this because there's not going to be any pressure or anything causing this to become distorted. But on the sides I am, because it'll be easier to sew it. See if using the scissor works okay on this machine. Not all of them are the same. Yes, you can use the glue, but no, the glue would not hold the sewing machine in place. It's magically, it works so well for everything, but not for that. This machine doesn't like to reverse as well as some of my others. They each have their own personality. So now we have this little boat, and you just pull it like that. And this would be a good time to press. And what you're aiming for is you want to have one side be bigger than the other when you press it. My iron's hot, so I'm going to use it. Shot of steam, nice and crisp. And we're going to take and place that wire now inside of the little bow. Oh, I didn't tape it again after. But you know what? It might not be a bad idea to wait to tape until you know it's going to fit after you've done your sewing. Looks good. Tacky putty. It's kind of like that, Barb. It's like a silly putty. It never gets hard, and it doesn't leave a residue. And it's holding my drawer shut on my chest of drawers here. So this is what it's like. And it holds the sewing machine so well, I cannot move it right now. I mean, I could if I really wanted to, but you can make it into like a ribbon to hold things together in your drawer like that. It's not the prettiest thing, but it is so functional. And it is keeping my drawer from rolling open because this I don't know what it is about this set of drawers, but I've never ever had it not slide open. So that's what I use. Now we want to sew that wire in there so that we can then sew it into the mask. And this is when you have to trust me that everything will be okay. We're going to use the correct foot for this, which is not the Satinedge. It's the pearls and piping. If you've never thought to make wire into a piping, you're not me. Now you know you can. And the pearls and piping foot has a tunnel beneath the foot that is designed to handle a wide variety of different sizes of piping. See how it's shaped like an A, and that is one of the features that makes it completely unique to any other sewing machine company's copy, there we go, of my foot, because I invented it. There was no beading foot until I created this foot, and it has this little washer on the metal bar that you can slide left and right to move, in essence, the trim or the piping beneath the needle. So if you can't get your needle to the side of this, and your needle's going to break if you sew on that wire. So we want to make sure our needle's not going to hit that. That washer is going to move the trim either left or right, depending on what I need it to do, using a straight stitch. The ends is where it's tricky because you've made it fatter. So that's what we want to gauge our needle position on. This is a full left needle position, and it's plenty. And then I'm just kind of keeping the wire pushed all the way over. And that is simply so it'll look neater or tidier when I'm finished. So the foot won't let me hit that wire. You can open your eyes. You don't need to be afraid. This is not going to break. It is the wire inside has about 12. I think I counted how many are in there. And there's 12 wires. Yeah, it's like 12 wires, light, thin wires inside of a clear tubing. And this is what it looks like up close. This camera's pretty good. If you can zoom in on this video or put it up on a big screen TV, you should be able to see that pretty good. But there's like 12 teeny weeny little wires that are twisted inside of this, and it's very flexible and super strong and designed to carry or bear the weight of a 300-pound painting or mirror. So you can keep adjusting that over and over and over again and not have the wire break inside of your mask. So to the end and reverse. Come on, reverse. I don't think it's because I got paint on the button, but you never know. It might be why this machine doesn't back up as easy as the others. Okay, now this is all ready, and this will be our last part that we put into the mask. Where'd the rest go? Oh, there it is. So to this point, we have the inside of the mask ready to be stitched to that, and then this will go there, and this kind of matches the outside of the mask that's inside, and then it is the same as the side, so it'll be a stylish mask when I'm finished. The next ingredient is the chin. We're going to sew elastic into the chin, and when you're finished, it looks very nice and refined, but you have flexibility so the mask won't fall off of your face. I'm gathering up my elastic. Where'd I put it? Open. Uh-oh. It's time to clean. There we go. It's so nice having each camera have its own screen so I could fiddle around without you having to watch me. I actually thought I had my elastic out because I had the round elastic sitting out on the table. And so my mind thought I was all ready, but it was in the farthest possible spot it could be. And now we're going to talk about elastic. If you use a round elastic behind your ear, because it's round, it can roll and actually pinch your hairs and make you itch. There's lots of different opinions out there on hair tie things that you can use, and you can try whatever you want. What's really neat about this design is you can put in and take out and try another one, and you can try just loops behind your ears, or you can try the way that I have found that I like it, which is a continuous piece of elastic. I did not like the round elastic option. And a lot of people did use pipe cleaner. So Cynthia, how much did you adjust it? Have you found that it ever broke? Because there isn't a lot of wire in there. And if you do use that instead of this, in lieu of this, and if you can't get this wire yet because it was sold out, then pipe cleaner was used by mask makers all over, and it was a good option. It also went into the autoclave machine because we worked with hospitals to test the masks. These masks can go through the autoclave And that's a steam cleaning, disinfecting device used in hospitals. It gets up to 265 degrees, I believe. Just a little bit hotter than cotton burns at. If you were going to cook it like under an iron, your cotton fabric would start to turn brown. But it's the steam that gets that hot, so it doesn't burn the fabric because it can't, because it's wet-ish, steamy. So you're making a good mask. On the chin, I use the 1/4 inch wide elastic. And around my head, I use the 1/8 inch round elastic. And any of you don't have any elastic, you're probably drooling over the size of the rolls of elastic I have. This is Made in America elastic, and the link to the company is inside of my school. There's a whole bunch of resources in there for you. If I remember correctly, to go around, I would do 13 inches times 2, and that is what I use to go around my head. But you could always just do that and go, okay, that's a good length. And this is the length that I'm going to use. And I don't have to sew it in. I get to insert it afterward. So we don't really have to even do that right away. And if you make a mask for somebody else, you can tell them, I put a piece of elastic in there, and you can adjust it to your desired length and then cut it short afterward. So there, you don't have to worry about it being a perfect fit for their face. However, I do give you instructions on how to measure faces so that you make a mask that isn't going to fall off of someone's face. And you can use it for children as well. All right, so the next step, everything's easier when you don't have to talk your way through it. The next step for me is to sew the 2 side seams. Am I right? I have to have a conversation with myself. Yes. We're going to go almost all the way around, in fact. So I can take these off. Everything is dry and ready for me to sew. And if you did make this too short, deliberately I did that so I could show you how to undo it. You can actually still pull that apart even though it has glue in there, and then adjust a little bit. So most of it is held in place. And go to the other end. And we're going to come, we want to go down the other side first. And the reason is because we're going to leave the nose open a little bit. Because we've got to turn it right side out after we do this. Wow, I can't believe how I've forgotten. It's not that long ago that I made one. Remember, we don't want right side facing up. And you can tell by the louvers, they should match. So that was me almost doing it wrong. So we're going to go like this. We're going to enclose that elastic into the mask. So we aren't going to do the elastic until we've stitched around. And I use the Satinedge Foot for this because I want to have an accurate seam allowance. You could glue if you want. So I'm going to start like right here, but I'm switching feet. And I know this is positioned well now, so I can hold it with one clip while I change presser feet. This is when you want to make sure you definitely have a 90-14 needle on the machine. Universal is fine because it will sew through a stretch. If your machine has issue skipping stitches, sewing through elastic, then you want to use a stretch. A stretch Schmetz needle is the same tip as a universal. It has just a little bit different anatomy that makes it harder for the machine to skip a stitch. Because it's designed for fabrics that grab hold of the needle, and I thought I had the other camera on, so I probably looked a little weird talking down to the phone and moving my hand where you can't see. Sorry about that. I got used to having the 2 camera up on the screen. I have to adjust now to it not being. So we're going to start right here and go all the way around. And I'm going to close this back up. Quarter-inch seam allowance is what this pattern is based on. the type of elastic. Yeah, now that you can see what I'm doing, I'll show you the elastic. This is, they call this a braid elastic. And it's got a nice fabric outer coating so it doesn't irritate your skin. It has a lot of stretch to it. So if you see there's an inch, and I'm going to stretch it and see, I can go all the way out to 3 inches. So that would be a percentage. You guys can do the math on that right now. I'm a little too tired. So you have an inch and you can stretch it out to 3 inches. So you want to think about that when you're selecting your elastic. If you have an elastic and you can't stretch it, then you'll want to use a longer piece than what I'm going to use. But we're not at the elastic part yet. We're almost there. Select a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you do that by adjusting this foot so that the guide is 1/4 inch away from the needle. It's also not a bad idea to do little dots so you don't forget to stop sewing in that spot, because we're going to come all the way around and stop. Sorry about that beeping. I know it's really loud. It'd be the perfect iron if it didn't beep. So I'm going to secure, whenever I have to turn something right side out, I always reverse and do a forward and reverse, or secure the beginning of the stitch. I'm trying to think of if I'm doing this right. I think I did sew across first. I did. And there may be a reason for it. But I really need to do that. So I'm going to cut that and do that. And I know now why it is. Okay, so I got the louvers pointing away from me, and our presser is your best friend when you're dealing with a situation like that. Keeps them from flipping up at the front of the foot. You can also increase your stitch length to make it so that it can come up and over those louvers. The dog just totally scared me. She's so little, but she makes loud noises sometimes. And she's digging the floor. You can hear that fight through that fabric. It's really thick right there. Now we're going to come around and do the other side. This side will be easier because the folds are facing toward me. But I could see that I didn't have my edge lined up. So a few stitches forward, a few stitches back. I use these masks for everything, you guys. So anytime you're going to spray paint, or you're going to use a shop vac, or you're going to sweep out your garage, anytime you mow the lawn, do gardening, and you're dealing with dirt. So lots of uses for these. And now you can look all pretty when you're wearing it. Yeah, I have been wearing mine for a year. Well, I stopped wearing it when I made the other ones, but... Okay. I'm sorry that I'm struggling to remember how to make something I've made 100 of, but everything's different when you're teaching it. So you can see if I turn this right side out, that is in there, and we don't want to catch this in the stitch. And this is when I sew the elastic. So I could have gone all the way around with the glue. It makes it easier. And I believe the ratio of this is when you want to pull those louvers out and make sure you don't catch them. In other words, the folds that are hidden inside, if you stitch on the top with the elastic, you might stitch that edge in. So we kind of pull it out. I don't know if you can see, like that, to kind of make all that nice, neatness messy. And I'm going to switch to the sequins and ribbon foot in a minute, but first, to make sure it won't shift on me when I sew the elastic, there we go. I'm going to sew the seam with the Satinedge Foot first. And when I do that, this is what I usually use. Anything that you have that's long and skinny, and we want to have like the needle down, and you lift the foot, and you can take this tool and fold back and over that fold, or the tube that's going to be holding your elastic, and then start to sew. And this is where we're going to sew the elastic. You would mark that fabric by putting it over your pattern. I really honestly don't even have to think about it. And I usually fold my mask in half like that to find center. And then I mark center and I come out 1.5 inches on both sides. You could make your seam allowance a little smaller than 1/4 inch on this side as well. I'm always just making sure the fabric's touching the white part of the guide. Try not to watch the needle. It's distracting, but you don't need to look at it with our feet. My elbows are down, my shoulders relaxed. My hand is actually resting on the sewing machine. I'm barely using any muscles. I'm coming up at the next end. And this is when you got to get back in there and make sure that that end is folded back and over so that you don't catch it. You could do it in the beginning and use a clip to hold it. That would be wise instead of waiting, because anytime we leave something to do later, we can forget, and it's a lot easier if they're already folded back. So in other words, I would fold it back and have the clip on this end holding it in place so that you can't hit it. And this gives you the most form-fitting of all masks on the side of your cheeks, so you don't have to worry about virus entering the mask. And now the next thing is to go on this side and go all the way up to here. Stop. You want to have a space to turn it right side out. Do you really want to leave this area as the area to undo? I don't think so. It makes it nice and clean if you have that be a nice formed stitch around there. So I would sew a 1/2 inch in and stop, because it's harder to turn it right side out when it's right up against all of that bulk right there. So once again, we're going to come under here and fold this in. Get it out of the way. You can switch the clip to hold that. And before I ever get there, I'm going to have this one folded over. So do this, and then you won't be struggling. And I have threads to undo here. There we go. So I hope this perspective is better. So you can see that we have our finished edge here, and we fold that under and tuck it away. Can you all see that good enough? You understand that? Because I can like do it even slower. So we're going to sew a little bit. I always forward and reverse at these points. You're in the 50-degree weather. You guys are having a whole conversation. I'm missing out. So I'm going to go make sure that my pieces are lined up. Watching there, don't watch the needle. All these curves can make you not so straight. So we watch right here. It's a constant spot, and it's ahead of where we're going. Just like when you walk, you look ahead of where you're going when you walk. So it gives you, I didn't stop, so now I got to stop on this side. So if you stop and sew a few stitches and then cut, got to turn that right side out. It's going to be a little opening. So forward and back. Whoop, don't go back too far. You won't have anything to turn. Now you're going to be tempted just to turn that right side out, but we have to sew our elastic first. And we sew it with the inside fabric facing up. Sequins and Ribbon Foot has a tube that's designed for elastic. If you don't have this foot, you'll have to stretch from behind the foot. This foot actually holds the fabric better than any other sewing machine foot. It also allows your fabric to spin around easier than any other foot for couching. So for some reason, It does both. It gives you light hold when you want light hold and amazingly tight hold when you want it tight. Now, I normally would mark my elastic. Did I bring out the white? I'm going to use white elastic. This way you can see what I'm talking about, and also, since the lining fabric is white, it'll look cleaner if there's white elastic inside. According to the instructions, I have you waste a little bit of the elastic. So come down, mark your elastic, and then I believe it's 4 inch to 3 inch. So we would take a measuring ruler with all my, I don't know where my ruler went. If you're gonna, it's a 4 inch, this stretches a lot. We have a 4 inch space that we're gonna sew in between. But we wanna measure the elastic 3 inches in between one mark to the other. That way we're stretching it 1 inch worth of stretch. You don't need it to be cemented to your face. You just need comfort and it to be snug under your chin. So this is gonna lock it underneath your chin. So I'm not doing 4 inch mark, I'm doing a 3 inch mark. I'm using the 1 inch because it's hard to use the beginning of a ruler sometimes. So now if I slid that over, you'll see that's 3 inches of elastic. And this is 4 inches apart. Not bad, huh? I did that from eye. I did it just right, look. So if we look at the 1 inch mark and we go to the 5, that shows you I am just really good at that. That's from making 100, 200 masks. Okay. Now we're going to slide the elastic into the foot. We're almost done, you guys. I'm at 2 hours. And I'm going to bring out my cell phone so you can see. Our fourth camera. Well, there you go. All 4 of them at once. That was funny. I think you can see in there. So what we're trying to do is we want to line up that line there with the line that you drew on the elastic. And we're going to start the needle right on that point because this foot will allow us to do that. Okay, now I'm going to switch back to the other camera. Because I can't hold that while sewing. Bringing the needle down. I don't need to bring the needle down. That's what you would normally have to do. So if you don't use my foot, you would have to lower the needle. But with this foot, we're lining up the lines. And I said I wasn't going to use this, but now I'm going to bring it back. So you know how to set up your sewing machine. We're going to use the 3-step zigzag tricot stitch, serpentine stitch, whatever you want to call it. It is a zigzag stitch that does a stitch, 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 stitch. So every zigzag stitch, every full zigzag stitch is actually 3 little straight stitches moving along, and that is the strongest of all the stitches. If you do not have that stitch, then you'll just use a regular zigzag stitch for this. You can even use a straight stitch if all you have is a straight stitch sewing machine. You're not left out. Okay, so now what we're going to do is get that line to line up with this. My cell phone never goes quiet without a headphone in, so I can hear it talking. All right, guys, ready? So we're going to take and stretch that line to that line. And that is the amount of stretch that I'm going to have. And I'm also increasing my stitch length to the longest stitch length on the machine. This machine is nice and quiet. And normally when you sew elastic, your elastic doesn't stay underneath the foot. But with this foot, the design of its base, it locks into the feed dogs and it allows you to sew with the elastic just hanging down back there so that you can guide with your left hand and stretch the elastic with your right hand. And we're keeping it on that seam allowance. That's the goal. If you go a little bit off of it, you go into it and you've pulled your louvers out, you're okay. But you want to be aware or mindful of those folds that are inside. And I think, whoopsie, I totally just was looking at my finger, and that's why you never look at anything but the front of the foot. I got distracted because I cut the elastic wrong based on the stretch of this elastic. It's a little bit stretchier than, so I'm going to make a note of that in the pattern. I got to make sure I didn't cut it or catch it before I turn it out, and I didn't. I got lucky, but I almost did not get lucky. So that means that I need 2.5. So it's instead of a 3-inch, 2.5-inch between. The elastic I used last year was definitely 3 inches to 4. So this is a stretchier version. You can see how it's kind of forming into the shape of a chin already. Now we got to turn it right side out. And you don't need to clip around the nose. We never want to clip unless we absolutely have to. I have given myself only an inch space to turn this right side out. So we'll see how I do. I'm actually going to take a little bit more. Sometimes I use my cell phone, but I use a tripod for it, and it's talking after I'm talking, so I can hear it talking underneath my table right now. I don't know if you hear me echo just slightly, that's what you're hearing. My phone is playing. Usually I have an earpiece in so that I can hear, and I am hearing myself talk after I say everything. It's a little bit disorienting, but it's the way it is when you go on TV and stuff. You hear yourself in your head. That's how you know you sound right, but you don't know you sound right till you've already said it, and because you're hearing yourself in the past. It's very interesting. But look, I was able to do it with just, I had to give myself a little bit more space, and I did so in a bad way by stretching and breaking the thread. You should do it the right way with a seam ripper. So because we tucked those little ends in, I'm going to go so you can see. If we didn't tuck those ends in, there would be a big jump of fabric right here. So this gives you like the tightest fit. And when we put our elastic through, the importance of that. And the reason I don't use a thick fabric for the loops is when we put the elastic through here. I usually, I use a big gauge needle to thread my elastic through. Everything's so shiny, and I got to cut it clean. Cut it at a diagonal. Then you can get a little bit of it in, and then it goes in easier. So the reason that I designed it this way and have you go through the folding process, which a lot of people started skipping it last year. They just made this smaller, and then they ended up with a big like flippy thing right here. Is that the virus could enter over there. when you wear it, it scrunches up and allows or causes the part on your cheek to hold tight to your cheek. So if you've ever worn a medical mask and you've seen people where there's a gap between the nose and that side, that's what causes it. It needs to not be secured. So when you see other masks where they stitch the elastic actually to the fabric, it then forces the fabric to do some things that so as you're wearing the actual mask, if the elastic's fitted to one side or the other or to the overall mask, then the mask tends to do this. But with the elastic free, you're able to put the mask on. Remember, we always don't want to touch it a lot. So you put the mask on holding the elastic. And if it's tipping, well, you can just pull the elastic and adjust it to whatever position your hair is in that day, or whatever garment may be causing it to not move as easily. So that also allows you to kind of tighten it up against your face if you need it. It's just a great mask. Make sure you cut all your threads though. I've had like little pieces of thread tickle my face on the inside of my mask. It drives me absolutely crazy. Use a magnifying glass. Make sure you've cut all of the little tiniest possible threads in there. On this particular mask, it is actually the same shirting fabric on the outside as it is on the inside. This is just a traditional cotton fabric. I absolutely love this fabric. I made an office assortment of things for the office using this that will be patterns coming up soon, so that if you sit at your desk and you get uncomfortable, you'll like it, and it all matches. And I just love this fabric. I don't remember where I got it. I think probably Joann's. I bought the whole bolt because I just had to have it. So now when we turn this right side out, the chin is kind of sloppy looking. In other words, the white fabric and the colored fabric doesn't have a nice clean separation. And the way that I achieve to have a nice clean separation is to now do a top stitch along the edge of that. And you can use the sequins and ribbon foot, but the Satinedge foot is always going to be your best bet for a really clean top stitch. I didn't catch this right, so I got elastic pulling on something. All right, so here I didn't catch it. So that is because I don't know, wasn't paying attention. So now what do? Well, you could turn it right side out and do it right. That's the best thing. I'm going to do that. Instead of trying to mess around. And I'm always trying not to have to turn that right side out again, but bad habits. Have you guys ever done that? Missed it just a little bit and gone, oh man, I got to take it apart. What would you have done? Would you have cheated? Which would have been to kind of shove the fabric in there. It wouldn't be as clean looking. And since it's going to be worn a lot and washed a lot, I'm going to do it right. I was more concerned about the nose, and I just honestly have no idea what I did there. It's clearly an area I did not sew. Operator error. Tuck that in so you don't catch it. But you do have to sew the fabric. I'm not going to take a chance and use sequin ribbon foot and not have a good seam. Putting the Satinedge foot back on. And then if you haven't used this foot, or the first time you go to use it and it tips to the side like that, and you might think something's wrong with the foot, there's nothing wrong with it. You just need to pretend it's not tipping and try not to let it bother you. I'm just trying to get that purple loop out of my way, or tube Got to come up with the right name. It's a tube. Honestly, I have no idea what I did. It clearly wasn't even stitched. I think I got confused with which side that was. Now we're showing our personality types. Being that it is a mask and it's going to be washed a lot, if you do that, I would turn it right side out. This is why you check the construction before you finish. So with the front-facing camera, I'm a little blurry, aren't I? It's supposed to focus all by itself, and if it's blurry, I can't do anything about it. Didn't have enough hours today to do that. So now we have this little mask instead of the giant mask that I originally designed, which was all about covering as much of your face as possible. But realizing that the virus can land anywhere, we don't need to suffocate underneath all that hot fabric, especially when summer comes. Another way that I begin to press, and this is how I did all the masks. I would take it and straighten out the fabric and go along the edge of my table and rub it like that. And that's how I pressed it initially. The first time I did it, I used the presser. But when you get going and you have hundreds of masks to make, you learn other ways. So this is a way of getting the stick and tear, and that's 2 layers of stick and tear in there, sewn with elastic. So it's a challenge to get it to lay flat while you're doing that. It works really good. The up close camera is good. Yes, I need to probably get it's my most expensive camera. Probably need more expensive cameras. So I'll put the Satinedge Foot on, and as frequently when I sew big bulky things like this, the foot is going to tip, and you can use a piece of fabric with batting in it or just a bunch of layers of fabric, and then lift the foot and slide that underneath on the right hand side to kind of support the arm of the foot. I'm going to move my needle over because I think I'll catch that fold if I don't. This time we really are trying to be as close to the edge as we can. And you want to make sure that these fabrics are all the way out to the edge, not like you see here where one fabric is stuck in there and it's folded over, because that reduces the overall size of the mask. And this is like the smallest mask I could come up with where it still functioned well. You may have to alter it a little bit for a man's face, especially if he has a beard. In that case, you would make it longer. This is when you want to make sure your fingers are moist with good lotion, because the fabric wants to slip. When doing a top stitch, if you don't want the stitch to show, you want to go darker. Not a lot darker. You want to try to catch the shadow color in the fabric. We're going to do a top stitch on the top of the mask as well, but no one's going to see it because this will be underneath your chin. But you want to make sure it's going to stay. Keep your focus on the front of the foot. Try not to get distracted by this and all of that. Plant your finger once you see that you've got like an inch of nice and neat tidiness, then put your finger down. And then focus on the front of the foot. Ignore the needle. Let me get this out of the way. It's too much showing. See how that fabric just stays there though? You don't have to tape it or anything. It just sits there and goes, you can lay on me. I'm comfy. My eyes focused right here on the front of the foot, making sure first the fabrics are lined up properly. And of course, now that I handled batting is flying through the air again. If you start feeling like you need to pull, like I just did, what you want to do instead is increase your stitch length. But I should have started with longer stitch length to begin with. The risk that you face when pulling your fabric through is that you'll bend the needle as the needle is going down into the machine, and that will break your needle. This fabric is a little bit more challenging to sew because I inked it, and I really inked it as loaded with ink. So it's a little sticky on the needle. A stretch needle would have been better. The stick and tear is on the outer fabric. The stick and tear is on this fabric, and the lining is loose. And this way the lining doesn't chafe you. It's nice and soft. Only one layer of the stick and tear. You have 3 layers when you're finished. So this is like wearing 3 masks. The reason they're talking about it so much is because people are using t-shirt material. We'll talk a little bit about the science of that. When you have a piece of material, I don't know if you can see through that, through the light. You can see my finger behind that. Nope. When you stretch a fiber that's woven across, it stretches. And what happens when it's stretching, this is even more amplified on stretch fabric, is the weaves of the fabric are doing this, opening and closing and shifting. Opening up saying, come on in, virus. Come on in, virus. So wearing a t-shirt mask that's a single layer of t-shirt is, you know, they use the term, they said, it's better than nothing. Well, it's better than nothing. But it is not good enough. So when I'm out and there's a server that comes up to the table wearing one of those masks, I make sure my mask is on. So I am able to at least protect myself from the construction of their mask. I can't wait till this is a past subject. Now I'm definitely using the presser on this end. There's no elastic, so it makes it easier to form. And I can use the presser inside to make sure my nose is nice and pulled out. That sounds funny. My nose is pulled out. Is your nose out of joint? Okay, it's the slap Howie. Oh, I'm 2.5 hours almost. This is where you get all those little fuzzies that if you don't cut them afterward, they'll tickle you. So I'm going to tuck that in and glue it with the liquid-based glue. So give me a thumbs up if you're going to start using the edge of your machine to press sometimes when you need to finger press. If you haven't shared this video, it'd be great if you did. And also, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, this is a good time to do it while I'm fiddling with this. This is our liquid-based glue, and I use it to close things up like this so that I know it's perfect. And now I can top stitch that, and no one will know that that was open unless you don't get that thread cut. This is the time when you want your little thread scissors. Oh, here they are. And cut any loose threads. Because when you're driving a car or you're walking in the store and you get a fuzzy tickling you, you can't tickle. I mean, you can tickle. You can tickle anytime. Sorry, that was not my word. I did not mean to say that. You won't have time to... People are going to look at you and go, what do you mean you're taking your mask off? You don't take that mask off in the store. You should have cut the thing that was going to tickle your face at home, like Claire said. Now I could just leave that glued and do the top stitch with the piping at the same time, but I don't mind having a little bit extra thread on the nose, and it's so much easier to be accurate. And hear the strength that the machine took to stitch through that. It's because there's a lot of layers right there. That's where one of the folds is, and there's a seam allowance, and well, you saw how it was made. So a few stitches forward, a few stitches back. If I used a darker color, if I used the darkest shade in this top fabric, it wouldn't show as much. And I like using the white because I just think it looks better. And, you know, like I said, you know when it's dirty. There's no denying it. Watching the front of the foot, ignore the needle. And you're going to be tempted to look at the needle because, well, you're trying to keep that needle really close to the edge. So how are you supposed to sew without looking at the needle? You use the Satinedge foot, also known as the magic foot. Or we say affectionately also called the magic foot by people that use it. Curves are no big deal as long as your focus is on the front of the foot instead of the needle. Okay, we're at the last stage. You can see how nice that looks, but we need to now make it so that we can form the nose, taking this foot off and placing back on the pearls and piping foot, which is the foot I used to make this piping out of wire. For those of you who are watching now, you didn't know that. Inside of here is wire. So I made piping so that I can sew it onto the nose of my mask, and I want to make sure that I sew it centered. So you fold that in half, and you can bring it back out after you mark it. So now I know where center is on that. Did I mark it? There it is. I marked it on the back. Then you do the same thing on your mask. Bring your two tops together, fold it, and mark it. And then we have this overlap. Remember I had you make one side bigger than the other? So we're going to flip that over. It's going to look cleaner. For the best fitting mask, you want to make sure the wire is pretty much all the way up. That's the focus on the center. And then you kind of just wiggle it and form it down. Put the foot on. You should have had the foot on already. This is the last part. It's your chance to ask some questions if you guys have any. Oh, the side of the machine. You can also use your table, because if you rub against your machine, you could end up wearing the paint off a little bit. So use your, well, then you're like, well, what about my table? My machine is coated with stuff that makes it more durable than regular sewing machines. Left needle position, which is what I used before. So a few stitches forward, a few stitches back. Keep my eye focused here, and I'm kind of forming it. Remember, it's wire in there, but you can't hit it with your needle because the foot won't let you. So you have the ability to take your time, even just doing a couple stitches at a time, to form that so that the wire is going to make a nice round top of the nose, not a pointy one, because your nose is not pointy. I can hear some of you going, yes, mine is. No, I've seen some pointy noses. So a few stitches forward, a few stitches back. And now we have a completed mask. All we're waiting for now is the elastic. And isn't that nice and clean? This is why I end up with a lot of threads, because you got your piping as well. So this is the area you definitely don't want to leave anything hanging, because it'll tickle your nose. And if you watched me enough on the show, you know that I'm like, there's things tickling my nose a lot in here. It's usually that batting. But shirting fabric can have almost microscopic little threads coming off of it. And I will clean that up off camera. You don't need to see all that. Isn't it going to be nice? I have a brand new mask to wear out to dinner. Been preparing this for months. I'm sorry, I actually worked on this when it was, I think, fall. It was still warm. Now for making the elastic loops that go through, as I said, I like to use the 1/8 inch elastic. And I have these little loops that you can purchase in the jewelry area of hobby stores. And it's just basically a full circle. They have white ones and pretty metal ones. You could even use some kind of a jewelry. But what you're doing by putting a little loop on the elastic is making it so that it can slide behind your head and not fall off of your head. It replaces the need for safety pins and for button attachments that people attach to loop elastic. If your ears are able to hold a mask on, you can make 2 loops. My ears are not. I have really small ears, and when I wore elastic, they would just fall off my ears. It drove me absolutely batty. So 13 inches times 2, so 26 inches is plenty for just about every female that I've made one for. If you have a gentleman, then you may want to make it longer than that. We got really stingy on our elastic at one point. So I'm going to get up close so you can see this ring and help you. I'll help you by locating them inside of Amazon and give you a link to it. So you can see it's very pretty. A little gold. They have all different colors. But yeah, in the jewelry area where you can make your own jewelry, and then you just you're going to put it on, but not only on one, you're going to have both sides go through that. So the first thing I do is thread the elastic through using a large eye needle. And then put that through. Come around again. Don't overthink it. You just got to get through the loops, and this is why we stitch them down, so that you can get through and then don't have the other end come right back out again. Now pull the elastic out of the needle. And it's a good idea to kind of try it on before you cut it if you don't know how big to make it for yourself. I did it wrong. You need to put it in up here. Then go through. It's going to go through there without the needle. Don't be lazy. But it's the end of the video when Claire starts to want to end. This fabric, Donna, is me. I inked it. It's my own fabric. And this fabric on the sides is also my inked fabric. So that's why the colors go so well together. I do have a how to ink your fabric video. And in that video, oh, there it is. I'm like, where'd that go? Then you go through that again. So see what we're doing? We have the loop going through, and we're bringing the two together on the back of your head with a pretty little ring that has the ability to slide with the fabric that is able to slide. And that allows you to size or fit your mask to your face no matter what without touching the mask. Then I just take my two ends of my elastic. This is where if you're a jewelry maker, you probably could put a bead on the end of these to make it not look ugly. But I usually just leave it like that. And there's a completed mask. So that ring, sorry for hitting the mic, that ring is just sliding on the elastic, and the mask is sliding on the elastic, and stops you from pinching your hair, pinching your face. The camera lagged there. So this ring allows the elastic to slide along the ring, and then the fabric slides along the elastic as well. The cameras are getting overwhelmed. And you just put it on. And take your thumb and the top elastic on both sides and put them over your ears. There you go. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make a mask. And I love that you can just put it, in fact, last night I came home and I totally forgot. I ate dinner with my mask on my neck. And then I was like, what is that? Oh, it's my mask. I suggest after you make it that you wash it in the kitchen sink before you wear it. It will soften up immediately. The stick and tear gets softer from just one hand washing in the sink. I use hot water as well. That video, if you're watching after the live, is you can click on the eye on the video and it will take you to how to wash your mask. And do any of you have any questions before I end this episode of Fabrically Speaking? I'm going to scroll up just a little bit and see if there weren't any questions that I should have answered. So Sandy, I think you saw the elastic. Okay, so now you know how to do that. Did that make sense to everybody on the elastic? And I like the thinner elastic for that. Some of the surgeons preferred the 1/4 inch elastic. They thought the 1/8 inch was too. It got stretched out or something. So if you're making it for a man, you may want to give him 1/4 inch elastic instead of 1/8 inch elastic. And remember adding to the length of the mask for beards so that they can actually wear it under their beard. Well, not any, there's some that just can't. Maybe I should make a beard mask. I think people have already kind of done that with the scarves that they wear where they look like bandits going to rob the bank. Yeah, this is all I can tell you is this is the most comfortable mask if you have to wear one. It is very comfortable and durable, and it gives you an excuse to ink something, and it's just a little tiny piece of fabric. So if you want to learn how to ink your fabric, which I'm very fond of, sometimes you just can't get two fabrics to match exactly. Like one is polka dot and the other, let me see if I can show you that. Because I've tried to explain this before and I failed miserably. These are two very colorful and beautiful fabrics, but this is a batik. And this is like a traditional type of print. And when you put these two together, well, they kind of look good, but they clearly are not of the same fabric family. So being able to make your own fabric, because if you can ink your fabric, that doesn't mean you can find a fabric that's already out there to match it. So inking your mask, make sure you ink your other parts as well. And then, well, you can go out and go out to dinner and wear something that you feel like you dressed up in, even though it's this hideous mask that we have to wear. Sandy, when the video's over, watch it again, and then you'll see how I did the elastic. It's one full circle going through. You go through one end and you go back around and then you tie a knot. So it's just one big circle going through those tubes, brought together in the back by that ring. All right, you just need to get away from me. There we go. In the beginning, I tuck my knot inside the side, but it never stays in there because it's not connected to the fabric. So that's why I'm saying if you have maybe a wood bead, put some beads on the end of that, then it would be pretty. And you won't care if you could even make it longer and even, decorate it with yarn and make it look deliberate that you have that extra elastic hanging off the end. Okay, guys, well, it's that time again. 20 minutes till 3 hours. So I'm going to end now and look forward to seeing you guys in the school, and know that the Fabrically Speaking quick clips will start soon. And I'm building up the school a lot right now. So if you're a member and you haven't been in there a while, you should go in and check it out and see what's changed. And make sure you have your notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any new classes and opportunities that are coming up. If you haven't joined my VIP group inside of Create with Clare Rowley, do it. I just added a coupon. So every member of the VIP group inside of Create with Clare Rowley always gets a coupon. No matter, even if there's another sale going on, you receive 5% on top of the sale. That is my way of thanking you for supporting the school and being a part of my VIP group. And I will perfect the pattern, but I go out to dinner after this and then I go to sleep. So tomorrow we'll fill orders that didn't get done today, and I am making pressers tomorrow. So if you want to be in this week's run of pressers and you order tonight, then tomorrow your presser will be made. The ring, Ellen, is to keeps the elastics together. This makes it so you don't have to have a loop over your ear. It's kind of a loop, but not a loop. It's a loop that moves, so it doesn't ever pull on your ears. So your ears aren't going to end up being moved forward by this. It's just how my brain works. I was like, okay, so how can we make it so it's a loop, but it's not a loop? And it doesn't hurt your face and it doesn't hurt your ears. And like I said, when you go back and watch this video again, you'll see you can pause the video and you can play it back and forth until you get that. You don't only have to watch the lives. And they're really good at getting these immediately. I mean, it seems like it's immediate. Only about a half hour goes by and you can watch the live. The chat tends to take a little bit longer to come through. And once again, congratulations, Cynthia. You were this week's winner, or last week's winner. This week's winner has not been chosen yet. That's something we do probably tomorrow. We'll announce this week's winner of the giveaway. Because I know that sometimes you guys will, well, now I want everything she used, and I could really use that coupon or that deal. And so the VIPs, you always have a coupon now, and the winner gets a certain amount of money that you can spend on our site. I'm not saying how much because it may change over time, but Cynthia, email me at info@creativefeet.com or just reply to the message I sent you inside of the school and we'll see what you want to get. Bye, everybody. I hope you enjoy your dinners and have a wonderful weekend. Thanks again for watching. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, be sure to do so today. Hit that like button if you liked what you watched. And I love you all so much. Thank you for watching. Bye.